Hello.
Hi, this is Regional Power and Utility calling to inform you of an outstanding balance.
I thought I paid that.
You're scheduled for immediate shutoff unless it's resolved today.
I
can help you make your payment right now.
Learn to pause, reflect, and protect yourself from scams with the help of the AARP Fraud Watch Network.
Nice try.
Visit aarp.org/fraudwatch network to recognize fraud sooner. The younger you are, the more you need AARP.
Introducing Home Care Plus, a new subscription service from Lowe's that helps make life easier by giving members a hand with home maintenance. Let Lowe's tackle the tasks you keep meaning to do, like electric dryer vent cleaning, replacing hard-to-reach light bulbs, and more. Subscribe to Home Care Plus for just $99 a year and consider your to-do list done. Members get more at Lowe's. Available in select zip codes only. Cancel anytime. Non-refundable fee. Product purchase required. Terms and service restrictions apply. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast with your hosts, Kyle Borganoni and Matthew Betz.
Welcome in. We are back. It's Friday, April 10th here. Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Borganoni, and I am joined, as always, by Matthew. He's just entering his prime, Betz.
Kyle, come on, dude.
That's a compliment.
Just now entering my prime?
Dude,
I'm leaving it, brother. I am leaving it. I've been feeling it, man, with this training the last several weeks, months, etc. But gosh, it feels good to be back. Man, we are back. DFS and Betting, the pinnacle of the Fantasy Footballers realm of podcasts, the family of network podcasts, if you will, is back. And this is the people's show, everybody's favorite show. I think we're all being honest about that. And quite frankly, the only podcast of the three that exists that's keeping our company afloat. So thank goodness we're back, because without us, this company would be going under.
Yeah, I mean, we're here obviously to talk ball. And I don't know what they've been doing on the other podcasts. I don't know what they've been thinking about. I mean, obviously Dynasty's been solid. Like, we're hitting doubles every single week. Main show, they're struggling, man. I mean, corporate, the sponsorships, the deals, they're barely keeping it afloat. And apparently they had to just really man, we got to come through this year, upgrade the video content there. That's really the only thing that's keeping it afloat.
Yeah, they're trying. Maybe they'll be on our level soon, but they're trying.
Yeah. We are glad to be back. We're going to be talking a number of different topics to kind of get you back in the swing of DFS and betting. We'll talk some best ball, just kind of our early takes of where the board is, how it's been different in years past. And then our main segment is going to be talking through our biggest NFL draft questions. We have an article that's live on the site right now. It's 2026 NFL draft props, our best bets. We've been slowly rolling that out to the people. And this episode is a chance for you and I to kind of talk through deeper layers of where we see the board. And then next week, oh baby, that is our NFL mock draft, kind of like back and forth, you and I. That's one of the episodes that we look forward to every year. It has all the great charts and stuff that people love. And I think when people think of the NFL draft, they may think based on needs. They may think on, here's the latest mock draft. But you and I try to take a different approach of how we look at it from a betting perspective.
Oh, dude, such a different beast every year to try to diagnose what's real, what's not, what rumors are happening that you buy or don't buy. And this year, more than ever, I actually kind of feel like it's the hardest year since we've been doing this to actually kind of get your head around what might happen, because every class is unique. And the case with this class, obviously, if you've been around football at all the last several months, you understand it's a very weak quarterback class. And there's not a lot of highly touted blue chip premium position players. And as a result, a lot of NFL GMs and a lot of teams are going to say, do we just take best player available here? Do we take premium position because that's what we used to do in the past? And as a result, you're going to see, I think personally, a very different top 10 than the consensus is right now. There's a strong consensus starting to form. You see Arvell Reese at 2. You start to see Jeremiah Love at 4. You'll see Carnell Tate at 6 in most drafts. And it's sure, I understand why that's happening. It could happen. But I also would not be surprised at all if on draft night we get the first round in the top 10 and it's just vastly different than what we thought, in early April, which I think from a betting perspective makes for a fun opportunity to not necessarily lay a lot of heavy juice. Like in the past, like there was a year when Michael Parsons came out. Remember, we laid it like minus 400 on him to be the first linebacker. It should have been like minus 2,000, right? But like we still played like that crazy number. This year, I feel so unsure about everything, basically, which means my personal approach this year to betting the draft is going to be more of a, sprinkle here, take a long shot there, kind of hope to hit a couple of those and hit some long shots. But man, it should be a lot of fun. Still a lot to figure out over the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, part of the data behind the scenes that we've kind of added over the last couple of years is I want to know if this team has actually met with this player. There are rare instances where a team says, hey, we knew from the combine, this is a guy like Joe Alt was Harbaugh's first pick, right? When he became head coach of the Chargers. And they came out later and said, hey, we just knew from there that Joe Alt was our guy and we did not want to tip our hand to anybody inside the top 5. So I like that strategy from like a team building perspective, but from a betting the NFL side, you and I do have numbers behind the scenes that say, hey, if you are a offensive tackle, I know that's a boring position, but like if you're an offensive tackle, we need to know that you have met with this team in some instance. And if you've used a top 30 visit on that position for one of those players, it's a pretty high hit rate. And so Betz and I have a lot of that data behind the scenes. We'll share some of that this week. I'll share some of it next week. I'll have an article coming out. Just kind of gives like, hey, here's where these players are being projected. Here's where these teams are using that draft capital. And I just love layering that into our analysis because we're not just saying like, oh, here, this team needs this position. We're saying they actually talked to this player and they brought him in for an extra visit.
For sure. And along the same lines too, like it's the kind of that time of year where you'll see different reports and some have questionable motivation level, right? It's like agents want some stuff out there and some people are willing to take it and report it. And you have to be able to kind of like sift through the weeds and also understand just like taking a step back. If you have done this before, you probably understand where I'm coming from. But if it's new to you and you just kind of like bet off of the latest report or headline, you probably will chase your tail and drive yourself crazy, quite frankly, for the next several weeks here until we get to the NFL draft. So what Kyle is saying is like, we do take that information, we filter it, and then at the same time, you look at kind of what the moves were in free agency. From a team building perspective, do they have a contract expiring next year that might lead them to kind of plan a little bit early? And then, like you said, like not putting their money where their mouth is, so to speak, but like their actual actions as far as saying like, hey, the Browns have been pretty clear, like wide receiver and offensive line, wide receiver and offensive line. And you look at their top 30 visits, it's all wide receiver and offensive line. So like I feel pretty good that in the first round, will be addressing at least one of, if not both of those positions. And so you definitely just want to kind of follow the moves, follow the pre-draft visits. And I know you do a great job of that and definitely help us out on the back end on that a lot.
Yeah, if you want to get a team perspective, if you're one of those people who's like, man, I don't know where this team is at, what their needs are, where their picks are. In the Ultimate Draft Kit Plus, we have a team opportunity page that Betz and I update throughout the offseason. It shows you the contract situations for some of these teams and where they're at and like, hey, this player's a free agent in a couple years. Or I was even looking at the Rams and just how this team is structured with Matthew Stafford, Kyron Williams, even his contract is a little bit more flimsy. You can find all of that in the Dynasty Pass. If you want to get that, ultimatedraftkit.com. We have all of our rookie rankings, all that stuff, the things that we talk about on the Dynasty show. It's a part of that, but if you are a UDK Plus member, you also get access to our betting channels, our props channels, all those things. So we like riding with you guys all throughout the offseason, and this podcast right now is us coming back and saying, hey, NFL draft is our first thing, but then right after the NFL draft, we will release our early best ball rankings, which leads me to our quick question, because
pro transition, Kyle. I mean, have we ever been more back?
I feel
Look
like
at this guy.
That's like one of the best things you can do is once you master the segue, it's huge. It's huge for the ratings. Every year is different in best ball, and that's kind of where I want to start because you cannot use last year's strategy. You cannot use the win rates of a player in 2024. You're like, oh man, look what Saquon did at this point in the draft. He doesn't exist in the 2026 draft or, in 2025, it was this player. It's like, it doesn't work that way. So early thoughts of how best ball is structured this year. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, I think so. I mentioned this when we were leaving the 2025 season at the Super Bowl. I was like, I'm kind of a little burnt out from NFL. Like, I might kind of take a little step back here. And I have done that. So I have not been in the weeds and in the best ball streets as much as I was last year at this time. That said, I've still done probably like 20 drafts or so. So like kind of wrapping your head around just the general ADP landscape, I think is helpful to understand if you are somebody doing pre-NFL draft best ball. Remember, these contests lock basically when the NFL draft starts, and then we have a whole new summer of best ball starts right after. So this game is different than the game that we will play in the summer. Is it really important to remember that? And so when I think about that, the two positions that I want to kind of highlight today, the first one actually is the wide receiver position, specifically looking at rookie wide receiver and potential, and I say potential with a huge asterisk, upside that is available right now in the late rounds that will not be available in basically 3 weeks. What I mean by that is if you go off NFL mock draft database, a good resource we use all the time, we mentioned on the Dynasty podcast, it just looks at, hey, like what is the range that these prospects are probably going to go? Of course, some players fall, some players rise, so it's not going to be perfect science. But if you just have your head around the idea of like, who are the likely round 1 guys? Who are the likely day 2 guys? Okay, who's just like probably not going to get drafted or like a 6th round pick? Like you can get that information ahead of time. And right now, basically every day 2 wide receiver that is likely to go based off these mock drafts is available after pick 200 on Underdog right now. So if you are somebody that says, hey, I understand the landscape right now, we don't know who the RB2 is for every team, we don't know who the late round running backs are going to be to target, if you kind of understand what's available to you late in drafts right now, it can help you form how you want to strategize your drafts early on, which for me is like attack running back and, obviously some of the wide receivers will still go, but attack running back because it's so barren once you get past 15th round. When you get to that round, 17, 18, 19, 20, there's all these day 2 picks available for rookies. And obviously, not all these guys are going to hit. You can have your opinion on which guys you like, which guys you don't. But the bottom line is like, we know some of these guys are going around pick 45, pick 50, pick 60. And because of that draft capital alone, we don't know which one it is yet, but because of the draft capital alone, the player that's going right now at pick 200 will probably go at pick 140 in a month, basically. So my advice right now is like, if you're just taking a portfolio approach, get some exposure to Chris Brazzell and Jeremy Bernard and Ted Hurst and whoever your favorite guy is, because they all go super late, yet NFL draft capital is telling us that based off previous best ball data, these guys will go way earlier than they are right now in the post-NFL draft contest.
One of the things that I want to highlight too about wide receiver is the landscape is much different even at the beginning. Like last year, we had 19 wide receivers taken in the first 3 rounds. And this year, it's only at 16. We talk all the time that there is kind of this pendulum swing based on what happened last year. Running backs are really good, and it's actually forcing wide receivers to be pushed a little bit further down in that round 4, 5, and 6 range. And like Betz was mentioning, if you're drafting right now, there's all these unknowns that's pushing rookie wide receivers, which traditionally are very good bets. They're just being pushed like way too late, 16, 17, 18 rounds. So I traditionally like to wait until I know the landing spots. Like for some people, they love drafting right now because they see the advantage and they see the edge they can get. I just don't love playing that way. But just looking at the board in general, it's like we only have 1 quarterback going in the first 3 rounds, Josh Allen. But we have 6 going in the next couple of rounds. So there's kind of these clusters at certain positions. Quarterback, it's rounds 4, 5, and 6. And then there are 11 quarterbacks taken around 7, 8, 9. Like that's going to be the spot where everyone kind of traditionally waits. They maybe double up in that spot. In the past, that's been really fruitful for you and I to find quarterbacks in that range. But I just find it interesting because there are so many running backs early. Wide receivers being pushed down, elite quarterbacks are being pushed down a little bit. Do you feel like that is wrong as a, we can nitpick on individual guys and where they're going, but like 17 running backs in the first 36 picks is like the highest it's been in years.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to wrap your head around that because, of course, just like 3 years ago or 2 years ago, it was, man, if you don't have 9 wide receivers in your first 3 picks, like, what are you even doing? Because they were all so high. And now it's the opposite where running backs are up there. But I do kind of think it's right just because it's like if you don't leave the first, let's say like 7 or 8 rounds with 2 running backs, it's like traditional 0 RB builds based off the landscape right now with the information we have or don't have. It's hard to make those bets, right? Like the ambiguity situations are just everywhere at running back. And some of the guys that you're drafting right now in like the 13th or 14th round that you think are the RB2, fast forward 5 months, they're not going to be the RB2 on the team you thought they were. So I do think it's tough to build those 0 RB teams right now. I think that could be an option depending on the landscape this summer. But as of right now, I do kind of think that's right. And before we move on from the wide receiver position too, I just want to highlight, I mentioned like all the day 2 guys that go after pick 200. There's like legit potential that Denzel Boston, Omar Cooper, and or Casey Concepcion, maybe even all 3 of those guys, I think 2 of them, are going to go in the first round. Right now, those guys are going basically around like pick 114 to 140. Those are also, to me, whether or not you think they're awesome prospects or not, just based off draft capital in your pre-NFL draft contest, good targets, because if Omar Cooper Jr. goes 16th to the Jets, which is like the chalk right now, he'll be a 9th round pick. He'll be a 8th round pick, probably something like that. Like, these guys are going to rise. So that's my point on the rookies. To speak to the quarterback position, the thirst is real, man. 22 quarterbacks go before pick 130. So our old strategy of being like, hey, if you want to wait and take, 1 or 2 in the middle round and like tackle on a couple late, it's just not an option right now. Like, once you get to pick 130, quarterbacks are gone because there's still a lot of uncertainty. Like, what's going on with Pittsburgh and Rodgers, and who's starting for Atlanta, and is Daniel Jones healthy, and who's the Cleveland starter? Like, there's no options late. So if you do take that late approach, be ready to get boxed out. It feels bad, like paying the tax on quarterback, but I kind of feel like you just have to do it in these drafts. If you wait, you will get boxed out, and your team will, for the most part, be dead. So you kind of have to just go with it and get your 2, I would say, before pick 130.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those years where I usually like waiting, riding dirty. It's like I would have taken Bryce Young as my 3rd quarterback or whoever in the past. I took a lot of Daniel Jones last year. And I just rather just wrap up my stacks with 2 guys in the middle rounds and feel strong about it. I do feel like there's another weak point, and I think I brought this up the last couple of years on this exact episode. So we come back, I share about ADP, and the number one thing that I can tell people is like, you need to look at where the team's wide receiver 2s are going. Because there are guys we know are going to get snaps, they're going to get a ton of routes, and they're going past pick 100. And that's like a really, really fruitful area for me in the past couple years ago. Who could forget the year of Darnell Mooney, where I was just, pounding the table for our boy, Darnell Mooney. Last year, I went back to this exact episode, and here's the guys that I brought up as wide receiver 2s that are going stupid late that you could get. Romeo Doubs, all right, I thought he was fine for where he was going. Cedric Tillman, that was an air ball. Jalen Coker, he was hurt, but down the stretch, pretty good. Huge, Quentin Johnston, dude, that in best ball was going at pick 135 this time. And then here's my favorite one I brought up. Michael Wilson was going past pick 200 last year.
Well, the issue was he was actually the wide receiver 3 because Greg Dortch was still on the roster at the time. The Dortch will never die. Are there guys this year? Like, who are your guys this year then? Who should I be targeting?
Okay, here's guys going, I kind of set the line at like 120. Let's put it that way. Josh Downs.
Okay. I love Josh Downs right now, by the way.
I think he's a great pick. Jaden Higgins. Thoughts?
Yeah, in theory, he'll be on the field. He just didn't do anything last year.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I'm not saying these are great picks, but
neither did Michael Wilson. So
Michael Wilson did ball, way less than Jaden Higgins.
This is the game we play.
Khalil Shakir is going past pick 120. Rashid Shaheed's an obviously interesting best ball player, and with a full offseason, maybe he gets more integrated. Kayshon Boutte is probably going to be an every down wide receiver opposite Romeo Doubs. So
unless they trade for A.J. Brown.
That is very, very true. And then one that's just a shot in the dark. This will probably change if they draft a wide receiver, but Adonai Mitchell earned targets at a level that we didn't think he could do in the NFL, and he's basically free as well. So there's a bunch of guys that when you're building out a wide receiver room of 7, 8, 9 guys, whatever, it's like, I'm very happy to get these players because all I'm asking these players to do is like, can Jaden Higgins catch 6 touchdowns? Yeah, like that's very,
sure.
Like Khalil Shakir could easily get 70 plus catches, 80 catches. I know DJ Moore's there, but like Rashid Shaheed, same thing. You know that he could have 3 or 4 spike weeks and pay off at his draft cost. All of those players, I think, are undervalued based on the format. That's kind of my point I'm bringing up.
Yeah, especially in this landscape right now where we're not really sure on a lot of things. At least I think you can feel pretty confident in most of those guys.
Yeah, and we will have our best ball primer that'll be out June 1st, but our rankings will be available in May right after the NFL draft. We'll give you a bunch of resources. We're also going to be adding some DraftKings best ball resources this year from Chris Cash, who plays a lot over there. So all of that you can get at ultimatedraftkit.com if you want to be in on the DFS pass and all of our best ball content. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll jump in.
If you work in university maintenance, Granger considers you an MVP because your playbook ensures your arena is always ready for tip-off. And Granger is your trusted partner, offering the products you need all in one place, from HVAC and plumbing supplies to lighting and more, and all delivered with plenty of time left on the clock, so your team always gets the win. Call 1-800-GRANGER, visit Granger.com, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
On Deck is built to back small businesses like yours. Whether you're buying equipment, expanding your team, or bridging cash flow gaps, On Deck's loans up to $400,000 make it happen fast. Rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau and earning thousands of 5-star Trustpilot reviews, On Deck delivers funding you can count on. Apply in minutes at OnDeck.com. Depending on certain loan attributes, your business loan may be issued by On Deck or Celtic Bank. On Deck does not lend in North Dakota. All loans and amounts subject to lender approval.
I mean, do you feel like us back on the mic together, however, I think it's like our 400th-ish show, DFS and betting together, like we kind of just know the ebbs and flows, know the ad breaks, we know when to press the buttons. Like,
I mean, I hope you do, because you're the one that does that
like
stuff.
if I wanted to, like I could just talk right now and just like, you know, I wouldn't obviously cut myself off, right?
Hey, rookie, welcome to the NFL.
We're talking NFL draft. I feel like this is like a niche market for some people, but we've grown from me being in a Panera betting on Justin Fields to where we are today.
Look how far we've come, Kyle. Look how far
and
we've
by
come.
me being in a Panera, driving like 3 hours away?
Yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do, right? Like, how far was that drive to across the state line?
Yeah, I mean, to the great state of Tennessee, known for its Panera breads. It was about 3 hours.
Probably not the best investment we've ever made.
No, because we lost money.
Yeah, when my wife and I were living in Vermont, you know, you couldn't bet on the draft in Vermont, but you could bet in New Hampshire. And so did I drive to a Walmart about 65 minutes away, park the car, log in, turn right back around and drive home? You betcha. Fortunately, we've grown. You know, we've come a long way since then. But man, that NFL draft, it's so fun. It's just a different beast. And like you said, like, you know, when you compare it to like what we normally do in season with matchups and data on snap shares and percentage of the team's carries and all the data that can go into prop betting, this is really just an information-based market. So it's just a different ball game, which I love. It's just different. And so I do think if you kind of have your, you know, like you're plugged in, but not like so plugged in, like we talked about in the intro with the all the nonsense that will get reported over the next 2 or 3 weeks, you can have an edge here, and hopefully we can help you guys cash some of these bets.
Yeah, you can definitely go too deep, and you can experience the paralysis by analysis if you're just looking at every single thing. Like when somebody sends me, I get these all the time. Somebody sends me, this player met and they had a top 30 visit with this team, because this has kind of been like a niche thing that I put out a lot of data over the last year. It's like
you're the top 30 guy.
I'm the top. That's who I am now. It's like, you know, Dane Brugler, draft, me, top 30, basically same guy. We're the same
difference.
Same guy.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you just look at all the data of top 30 visits, like, man, like everybody basically visits with everybody. Everybody has met at some, like JSN, the year that he went to the Seahawks. I was looking at this the other day. I was like, man, JSN met with like 15 teams, it felt like. And the Seahawks were not one of them, because I'm pretty sure he went 20th overall. They were like, I don't think this guy was supposed to be on the board. Like, I don't think that he was their plan A.
We'll never know.
Yeah, and obviously it's worked out really, really well for them. One more thing we need to mention before we get into our biggest draft questions is, depending on where you are listening, which state, your location, your book or whatever you play on will have different markets, or maybe won't even have an NFL draft market. If you're one of those people who's like, man, I'm used to being able to place a wager on this game or on this prop, you might not have the NFL draft available. So just keep that in mind when we release some of these. Like, we get feedback from a lot of people like, man, that market, or I can't find it at all. You kind of have to go searching.
Yeah, you do. I know that the prediction markets as well, if you're into that, like I don't really do that kind of stuff, but if you're into that, that's also an option nowadays. The only reason I like those is because you can bet the no on stuff. Like all these other markets, there's no option for no. Like, will this guy go in the first round? Like DK and all these books, they don't have it as a two-way market. They price it as one way, which means we are getting screwed when it comes to odds, quite frankly. But you can bet no on other stuff if you're in the prediction stuff. So yeah, shop around, do what you got to do. If you have to drive to a Walmart or a Panera like Kyle, just know you're not alone. We've done this together before, so you're in good hands here.
It would just be so funny if you do show up to a Panera and you just kind of look over and you don't even have to say anything. It's like that scene in Dark...
you just lock eyes from across the restaurant with somebody else.
It's like that scene in Dark Knight, right? Dark Knight Rises, where he just kind of looks at him, nods, and just moves forward.
Now, when you were there, real quick, did we do like a little you pick two, or was it just okay, good? You at least went into the restaurant.
No, I'm not just going in, ordering a water, and hanging out for a couple hours.
I just meant, like what I did, I literally didn't get out of the car. I was just in the car in the parking lot. You at least went to a fine establishment. I mean, it wasn't a Chili's. And, supported.
I supported
the local economy.
Local Tennessee, eateries.
Yeah, the small restaurants.
So you brought this up earlier. I think that we're at the point in draft analysis where we've kind of been lulled into this is consensus. This is just where this player goes. So what Betz and I are going to do is going to walk through as many picks as we can in the first round and hopefully familiarize you with these teams, who they met with, the odds, and then some of the questions. So I personally will not bet on most of these things here because it's like, okay, do I really want to place minus 20,000 on Mendoza? Obviously, no, that's gone. Or do I really want to place a bet on who Arizona is drafting at pick 3? There's a lot of markets out there that will tempt you into betting almost anything you can on the draft, including certain ones where they build parlays for you. I sent a couple of those.
Oh my gosh, dude.
I will not.
Please tell the people about this.
I will not name any names of any companies. But if you are served up a parlay at the very top of whatever app
on the home screen,
yes, that you are visiting, they are just priced in such an egregious way that it's just tempting people, plus 600 if these three things happen, or, plus 800 if both of these guys go in the top 10. And when you really start breaking it down, you look at the teams and everything else, like there's very few. I think I went through 10 of them with bets today. I was like, oh, one of these sounds actually okay. And I think it was like plus 125. Like it wasn't a sexy bet at all. So do not be lured in by the, 5,000 people placed this bet today. Any of those things. Like, please don't do that.
Yeah. They're pulling you, Kyle. Like Kyle, in high school, Kyle used to get shoved in the locker. The books, if you bet those, they're shoving you in the locker, so please don't do that.
Yeah. I would, obviously that was my story. So let's start walking through these biggest questions of the draft. At 1, we have Las Vegas, Mendoza. You should have bet that 2 months ago.
I didn't
either. I didn't want to. But that's the traditionally what you should have done. For the first overall pick, it's kind of like last year with Cam Ward. There was a certain point where you could have bet it, and then it was like, it's gone. So anyway, we don't really bet those markets. At 2 with the Jets, there's really only 2 players that are in range, and it seems like at defense is kind of where they're going. They have another pick later on in the draft at 16 that maybe we can talk about later, but early reads on the Jets.
I mean, I think the consensus is Arbel Reese from Ohio State, which I understand totally. I don't have a strong enough lean the way that mock drafts and the betting markets suggest that is 100% like going to happen. Like it almost feels like it's 100% because if you read any mock, I would say 90+% of them in the last week are telling you that's who the pick will be. I'm not saying that's wrong or right. I don't feel that level of conviction and confidence to recommend anything here. So I haven't played anything with the Jets at their second pick. I think David Bailey is also a possibility here. But it does certainly feel like they're going to go with one of these edge/linebackers at 2. If you want to touch on them at 16, I thought it was really interesting today on earlier this week, rather. Tony Pauline reported basically that they like Cooper and they would take him at 33, but no sooner. It's like, dude, if you like Omar Cooper, who's kind of the chalk pick for the Jets, he will not be there at 33. So if you actually do like him as much as the report says, like you're not waiting to 33, otherwise you don't like him. So I'm hesitant to believe any of that type of stuff. He's met with every team basically from like 19 on. So he does feel like one of those guys, and you'll see this in the betting odds too, that's slowly approaching round one. I don't want to say throw away the key type of lock, but like a soft lock. For round one, he definitely seems like he's going there, but they definitely are a team I think that could take any of those wide receivers with their second pick, whether it be a falling Jordan Tyson or Mekhi Lemon or something. Like, obviously they have to get something behind Garrett Wilson. So yeah, I think they go defense early on, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go with wide receiver with their second pick.
Yeah, just to give you some numbers, Arvell Reese on DK Sportsbook is minus 250, and some of the numbers that Betz and I will bring up is what is the implied odds for that. So minus 250 is a 71% chance, and if you look at mock drafts for the last 2 weeks, 74% of them have had Reese right there to go number 2. So that's kind of where I have him locked in. I'm sure next week you and I will probably both have him there. But what really matters is the domino effect of if this player goes here, what could that mean? We will start getting markets, and I think maybe next week we'll have a couple of these where it says the exact order of the top 5. If you're going to do that, that's how I like to bet it, of saying, here's what consensus says, but if Bailey were to go there, how would that affect stuff with Reese, and how would that change the rest of the top 5? But I think Reese is kind of the pick. The Cardinals at 3, to me, are one of the most obvious trade down candidates of the first round. Betz and I don't really mock those. We don't really proclaim like this trade's going to happen, because historically trades happen way less than any mock draft you're going to read out there. But it seems like it's either David Bailey, the edge you just mentioned, he's at plus 225, or the offensive tackle out of Miami, who I will mess up his last name, Francis's first name. Everyone knows that, of course.
Everyone knows Francis.
But Francis Mauigoa.
I think it's Mauigoa.
Mauigoa. Those are the kind of the two top, but Mauigoa has kind of been the guy recently that's been in most mocks. Like, I'm looking over the last week on NFL Mock Draft Database, 56% of mocks have had him there. It was at 40% the week before. So you're starting to get this group think that they're going to take this offensive tackle there, but he's not really a left tackle, so that's usually not where you would take it 3.
Yeah, the tricky thing with the offensive line group is like there's not a standout left tackle in this class if you trust a lot of NFL evaluators. And this is kind of the range where those guys would normally go. Like you mentioned the Joe Alts of previous years and et cetera. It's like, and Paris Johnson actually went to the Cardinals a handful of years back at this, I think, exact pick,
yep.
3rd. But like there's none of those guys right now. So the tricky thing is like, do they, air quotes, reach on somebody that normally would be taken in the teens because they have an offensive line need? Presumably they'll take their quarterback of the future next year. Do you try to set up the line that way, or just take whoever you think the best pass rusher left on the board is and go that route? So I get the argument for both. I truthfully have zero idea of what they're actually going to do. And this is where I think the consensus starts to get overconfident at 3. Because like honestly, if the Cardinals do something weird that nobody's predicting right now, the rest of your top 10 that you've seen for the last month is not going to look the way that it has. And so you get this kind of like sticker shock effect. And I think that presents some opportunities in the betting market. But for them specifically, I don't have a great feel. They do seem like a spot that it would make sense to trade down. The problem is, like you said, that doesn't happen as often as you would think. And that requires somebody willing to give up a bunch of assets to go up. The 2 teams that I think have been kind of floated the most are like the Cowboys at 12. And normally to go to from 12 to 3, it's a ton to move up that far. It won't be for quarterbacks. Maybe it's not as much. The other team is the Chiefs, who like ironically are meeting with some of these guys that we think are going to go in the top 5. So we'll see. And obviously they have multiple picks from their trade with their cornerback, or they have a later first round pick too. But yeah, the bottom line is like I do not feel confident in any of the players at 3 for the Cardinals, and it's going to affect the rest of the top 5. So hopefully we get more information over the next couple of weeks, but right now I don't feel great about anything.
Yeah, Betz and I were talking earlier, and I was like, man, Cleveland at 6 is such a huge hinge point. You're like, dude, it's 3 with the Cardinals. This is like where we're at in the draft. And, you might have your convictions of like, oh, I know what the Cardinals are going to do. I know what the Titans are going to do. The Giant, like you can walk through this stuff and go like, oh, well, Jeremiah Love's going here, blah, blah, blah. There are so many different scenarios. And the Chiefs are the ones that I want to just echo again, because they've met with Arvell Reese. They've met with David Bailey, 2 players that we think are both like top 3 in terms of big board. And then they've also met with the wide receivers, Tate and Lemon. The Chiefs are a team that we think can move up. They have the assets to do it. And they have the organization that's usually just smarter than everybody else. And so when they have a conviction, like they did with Pat Mahomes years ago. It's like, oh, we're gonna do it. So as of right now, I would have David Bailey with the Cardinals, but I could be wrong. This is a weird team. The Titans
I also think,
real
quick, sorry to cut you off. I also don't think it's a slam dunk that like Malago is the first offensive lineman. Like, I know Brandon Thorne does a lot of great offensive line evaluation work. Thinks Spencer Fano's his top lineman in this class, and it's like, who knows, man? So yeah, I don't feel good about anything with the Cardinals.
Let's go to the Titans at 4 because Jeremiah Love has kind of been slowly penciled in as the guy. And we would say if we're building a team at 4, that is super rich. Right now, the odds are at plus 145. That's a 41% implied odds. And so far, their top 30 visits, they've met with Jeremiah Love, Reuben Bain Jr., the defensive end out of Miami, Carnell Tate, and a couple others. They're an interesting team, man. I feel like they can go in a lot of directions.
Yeah, the thing that's most challenging is like when free agency opened, they made that trade with Jermaine Johnson from the Jets to kind of reunite with Saleh. They've already got some good edge rushers there. They've got one of the best D tackles in the league already. So it's like, in theory, edge rusher isn't a need, but also like, what if Robert Saleh is like, this is our identity. Like, we're just going to be the top edge group in the league and we're going to have 4 different guys we can throw at you. The thing about Jeremiah Love that like I get is, a lot of this talk is like, we got to support Cam Ward. Let's make it work for him. How would you do that with the running back? The thing that I keep coming back to is like, wouldn't Carnell Tate make Cam Ward even better? Like, don't get me wrong. Like, Chimere DK is fine. Like, Ayamanor is fine. Yes, they paid Wan'Dale Robinson an obscene amount of money, and he's good, but he's not a traditional perimeter wide receiver. So that price just keeps, every time I log in, which I never log off, but every time I'm in there and I see it, I'm just like, I don't know, man. I'm intrigued on throwing a dart with Carnell Tate, but I haven't done that officially yet.
Yeah, Carnell Tate's one that we've talked about a little bit, just because we know that they've met with him and Mekhi Lemon and a couple others. So they clearly want to address wide receiver at some point. Calvin Ridley after this year is expendable. So I just wonder if they're thinking long-term about this team. This is a GM that came in last year, so was not part of the Calvin Ridley experience. Their GM at the time was Rand Carthon, and now they're kind of just like, okay, well, let's move past this. Let's build around Cam Ward, your boy Gunnar Helm at tight end, just those building
Gunnar.
But also you could play that game at running back, right? It's like Tony Pollard
totally, yeah,
is not going to be on this roster next year. So I think my contrarian nature doesn't want to put Jeremiah Love there. And then at the end of the day, it's like, I could see them taking him there.
I could. It's tough. Yeah, I could. And I've heard other people say this too. It's like, well, Saleh just came from San Francisco, and he obviously has been there a bunch of years off and on before he was with the Jets. He sees what Christian McCaffrey has done for the team, right? So there's that argument too, and I get that. But man, it's just like, I think the Titans will be better than they were last year. They're not a running back away. That's the thing with the Raiders last year. It's like, okay, you're not a running back away. Why are you doing this? Maybe Jeremiah Love is just that good, and maybe this class is just that weak. So that's the tricky part. But yeah, I don't agree with I won't say slam dunk, but I don't agree with the overwhelming consensus that it's Jeremiah Love. I definitely see it, but I'm not there yet personally.
The Giants at 5. Right now, the betting favorite is linebacker Sonny Styles out of Ohio State. He's at plus 180. There's been a lot of buzz recently about how he fits their scheme. They have a ton of, great players on the line. Today, we got news about Dexter Lawrence wanting to get traded out, but he's a physical freak. He basically broke every single combine thing. And him and Caleb Downs, so we have a couple of Ohio State players that are on the board that have kind of been linked to them. They've met with Arvell Reese. They've met with Carnell Tate, which would be interesting. They've met with Jeremiah Love. I feel like they're kind of could go in a bunch of different directions. And to me, it's like, well, they have some premium players they could take with Carnell Tate. I don't think Reese will be there. I hate taking a linebacker, which Styles can play a bunch of different places all over the map, but I hate taking a linebacker at 5.
For sure. That's not anything we've seen really at all, so again, speaks to the class and kind of the overall strength or lack thereof. I did also find it notable that Jordan Ranan was on a show, I forget the name of it, this was the end of last week, and somebody just said, hey, gut take, like, who you think it is right now? And he's like, my gut is Jeremiah Love. And I'm not saying that we or anybody should act on that, but it's just like, hey, he's one of the guys I trust with the Giants.
Yes, you should.
That's where he's thinking right now. Of course, that's not reporting. It's just like, this is my gut. I don't know, man. It was weird, right? We've got hey, we're in on Ken Walker. Hey, we're in on Travis Etienne. We're in on these high-profile free agent running backs. To me, there's a little bit more there than not. Not saying that I necessarily would do that personally, because I think Scottabu's fine and he seems to be a hit, and Tyron Tracy seems to be a hit relative to cost. But at the same time, like, this is a completely new coaching staff. Reportedly, like, Harbaugh has more of the say this year than
Joe Schoen.
Than Shane. Shane, come on now, Kyle.
I'm not from that area.
Schoen. And at this point, I think Shane's probably
mean the
just
guy
like,
that should be unemployed?
Whatever you would like to do to help me keep my job, I am for it. So I don't think he has much to say right now what's going on, but like, they hit on those other running backs. So like, it's just tough, man. I really don't have a good feel for it right now. Joe Shane is how you say it. I don't have a great feel for it right now. I will say the interesting thing that came out from the owners' meetings about the Giants was like Harbaugh talking about, like kind of like how you have to stop the run to be able to set up your defense. And I think a lot of people took that little snippet and was like, oh, Sonny Styles, right, obviously, which I get. But yeah, it's just interesting. And to Harbaugh's point, like, the Giants haven't been able to stop the run for like 3 years in a row now. So it does make some sense, at least.
Yeah, this is the part that I have an issue with, because you have multiple people that you think are calling the shots. You have a GM who needs to save his job. And now you have a head coach that is basically like a CEO. Let's be honest. Like, he's been more than just X's and O's guys in Baltimore for all those years. So the Giants with Styles, I think Tate is in play. Caleb Downs is very interesting. He's volatile, though, the safety out of Ohio State. Like, I could see him go at 5. I could see him drop out of the top 10. It's like anywhere in between. Let's go to Cleveland at 6. Is this one of those exercises where you're saying if they take a wide receiver here, they're taking a tackle later, and vice versa? If they're taking a tackle here, Maui Goa or Monroe Feeling out of Georgia, then you're picking a wide receiver later.
I think that's the thinking, right? It's like whatever position you don't take now, you'll take later, or vice versa. And that just comes down to like, what type of offensive lineman do they think will be available at, I think it's pick 24.
Yep.
Versus like comparing the wide receivers that might be there compared to potentially getting their pick of the entire class at 6, which presumably would be Carnell Tate based off the betting market for him to go to the first wide receiver. It's like you're comparing kind of like the combination of like, Tate and like one of the other linemen versus like, Maui Goa or Freeling or whoever it is at 6 versus like a KC Concepcion or a Denzel Boston, or maybe Omar Cooper slides a little bit, or whatever wide receiver is there in the 20s. That's like the 2v2 combination that I think people are going to kind of put around Cleveland. Carnell Tate does make so much sense. Like, played at Ohio State, really high character guy. Obviously, they need wide receiver desperately. It makes a lot of sense. I just personally, for me, I think Tate could go to the Titans. I think he could go to the Giants. And so I don't think necessarily I'm interested in betting whoever the favorite is right now, which is Tate at 6, although obviously I could see it.
Yeah, Tate feels like anywhere from 4 to 8. I could see him go to any of those teams. And
if he falls to the Chiefs, I think they'd run the card in.
Yes, I can't. It'd be so hard for me to see him do that. But yeah, the Browns have met with 8 wide receivers so far. And they're just signaling like, this is what we want to do. And you can look at that a couple different ways in terms of top 30 visits. Like, this team is trying to do their homework, saying, how far apart is Tate, Tyson, and Lemon from the rest of the group? Because obviously Tate, Tyson, and Lemon aren't going to be there at 24. And then they're looking at some of these other prospects at 24 and saying like, man, if we really like Cooper or Concepcion or Boston, do we feel comfortable, or do we like the tackles there? I did do some research and basically looked at every single offensive tackle taken in the top 10 over the last decade. And this year, we don't have a ton of data yet about who these guys have met with. Like Spencer Frano, you just talked about him earlier. He met with the Giants. We don't think he's in play at 5, but we think that he's definitely one of the most talented guys of this group and pretty versatile. I think Tate makes a ton of sense if I'm putting I need to market this team. And this is a local guy. Like, I know that's just like almost a silly connection, but like this team does not have players that you can market other than like Myles Garrett.
Yeah. That's literally, I think, the only guy.
And you're not a
right now.
You're not a Judy guy?
Jerry? Nah.
I was writing up something today about Jerry Jeudy, and I said, after the NFL draft, he could drop from being borderline irrelevant to certainly irrelevant.
It's just mean, man.
I know, man.
He's a fine wide receiver, too, for your NFL team, but you don't want him to be more than that.
Jerry's made a lot of money so far in his career. Being
he has. Good for him.
Fine wide receiver, too. All right, let's take a quick break, and then we'll keep going.
When you manage procurement for multiple facilities, every order matters. But when it's for a hospital system, they matter even more. Grainger gets it and knows there's no time for managing multiple suppliers and no room for shipping delays. That's why Grainger offers millions of products in fast, dependable delivery, so you can keep your facility stocked, safe, and running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
OnDeck is built to back small businesses like yours. Whether you're buying equipment, expanding your team, or bridging cash flow gaps, OnDeck's loans up to $400,000 help make it happen fast. Rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau and earning thousands of 5-star Trustpilot reviews, OnDeck delivers funding you can count on. Apply in minutes at OnDeck.com. Depending on certain loan attributes, your business loan may be issued by OnDeck or Celtic Bank. OnDeck does not lend in North Dakota. All loans and amounts subject to lender approval.
Let's go to Washington at pick 7 right now. They have had top 30 visits with Tate, Lemon, and Boston. And I think they're in play for cornerback. I think they're in play for Ruben Bain. If Sonny Styles is still available, I think they're probably going to be best player available, which is probably a good thing in this draft considering how weak it is. So I actually kind of like where Washington's at.
Yeah, and they've got needs out of a lot of
Maybe
places.
Maybe that's why I could find any player to fit their needs.
Yeah, that's why it's you can make an argument for any of these players that you just mentioned. I'd be like, that makes sense. Man, the defense has just struggled so much recently. But if Jeremiah Love does fall to them, he kind of feels like it feels like that's the last spot he could go, doesn't it? Based off of where he is relative to NFL evaluators on their big board. Everybody has him as a top 5 player in the class. Maybe Washington just says if he falls, sure, we'll do this with him. I think Sonny Styles makes a lot of sense. I could also see them going with Carnell Tate, although I have heard other people make this argument, which I do kind of agree with in some aspects. It's he and Terry do feel like they have a little bit of overlapping skill set. Maybe Mekhi Lemon would be a better complementary piece, but at the same time, we also have to remember Terry McLaurin isn't really under contract for very long and not the youngest anymore in the league. So I'm not sure how NFL teams think on that front necessarily, but no doubt about it. They've got needs everywhere. And so, like you said, that's why there's no overwhelming favorite with this pick, is because there are so many guys that make sense. So for now, I'm just kind of trying to get more information, I think, on the top, let's say 5 or so picks. And then I might take something with Washington as the weeks go on, but right now I don't have anything.
Yeah, just a little aside. We personally don't look at the markets right now that say first draft pick by Washington by position, and it's okay, well, you could say it's going to be a wide receiver, or you could say it's going to be a cornerback. It's we just don't bet those right now. We kind of wait until we get a little bit more information about those. And at the end of the day, because there are so many combinations, we're traditionally just want to sprinkle a little bit here and there. We're not trying to be so bullish on this is where this team is going to take this pick. So last year, we're about to talk about the Saints. Do you remember the Saints at 9 for a long time were the betting favorite to take Shadur Sanders?
Yes, I do.
It was
what a time to be alive.
Yeah, and it wasn't just minus 115. It got up to minus 225 and stuff at the 9th pick to take this player that we did the research. We sniffed it out. I don't know if you remember. And we were like, they'd never met with this player.
I kind of forgot about how wild that was.
No, I
remember the whole saga, of course, but I do remember looking at that and being like, well, that doesn't make any sense. And Nick Underhill, who's the guy you look at if you're looking for Saints information, was like, no, they're not doing this. And that was this time last year. Like he was the heavy favorite.
It was so funny because we were looking at the data, the top 30 visits, and every first-round quarterback has met publicly with the team that drafted them other than Tua, and that was during the COVID year. So it was like, wait, they haven't met with this player. And then all these other people were like, well, they did meet with Tyler Shuck. And it kind of fit both pieces of the data of like, yes, they met with him, but he wasn't a first-round pick. So you kind of have to piece together all those things. The Saints are at 8 this year, and they have had top 30 visits with Tate and Lemon, a couple other wide receivers going later. There's some defensive players on the board that I think are really good value if you want to go there. But any reads on the Saints? What is Underhill saying?
He's just, I'm waiting for him to give us the answers to the test. He's not. We'll have to check back. I don't know why. Maybe this is just like a gut feeling thing, which nobody should bet off this. I feel like Mekhi Lemon is like a perfect fit with Chris Olave, and if you think Tyler Shuck can be the guy, or you at least want to find out, it's like, man, they've actually invested a lot in the offensive line recently. If you think you have a second-round rookie contract quarterback, you can cost control at wide receiver. Like, you can invest in this team pretty heavily and be aggressive for the next couple of years if those hit.
In a terrible division.
Right, exactly. And it's like, it's wide open. They surprised some people last year with the first year of Kellen Moore. So I think wide receiver is more in play than maybe most people think. We took Mekhi Lemon to be a top 10 pick a few days ago at plus 500, I believe the number was. And it's not that we evaluate him as like a top 10 player in this class. It's just that Mekhi Lemon is meeting with Washington, New Orleans, Kansas City, the Dolphins. Like, he's kind of on that top 10 fringe radar, yet the odds were suggesting like, it's pretty unlikely this is going to happen. And I'm not saying it will. It's just we saw a mismatch with the odds and the landing spots. And I do think New Orleans is one of those sneaky spots. So I'm interested in maybe, just a long shot sprinkle on Lemon to go 8th, but I don't feel great about that. It's just kind of this, like I said, this gut feeling I have.
Yeah, and there's some other connections that you can make when you look at their top 30 visits. I think if Styles or Bailey fell, they would be interested in those guys.
Yeah.
I think the Saints are in a good position. I think for the division, and then also if they want to take Tate or Lemon, those look like really good options there. We know that Kellen Moore, traditionally, whoever the slot wide receiver is, has kind of grown in their role. It was Keenan Allen, it was CeeDee Lamb, it was Devonta Smith with the Eagles when he became a slot wide receiver last year. Juwan Johnson was basically dude, he was basically a slot wide receiver. And then obviously Olave had a great year. So I do like that spot. I do like the Lemon bet that we made. So we mentioned the Chiefs at 9. They're a good trade up spot. Anything else you want to say about them?
Chiefs are tricky. I was looking at this on, I think it was MGM, if you have that book available to you. So the tricky thing is, like, they've been an offensive line potential team. We've already talked about some of the issues with this offensive line class. At the same time, they really need an edge rusher. And they quietly are like a wide receiver team. It doesn't feel like it because, they've got Rashee Rice, but obviously he's got some history of the off-the-field type stuff. Do they want to invest in him from a financial standpoint in the future with his background? I'm not sure. The other problem is he's not necessarily your traditional X receiver. They took Xavier Worthy to maybe be that guy, but obviously it hasn't really worked out quite yet. I think this is a team that might need a wide receiver, and the markets are not telling us that necessarily, even though their top 30 visits correlate there. So what I'm getting at here is the odds were long enough on both defensive line / edge and long enough on wide receiver that if you put like a half unit on both, and one of those two positions are the Chiefs with their top 30 visits telling us it might be, you're set up to profit. So I haven't done that yet officially, but I've definitely been interested in doing that because just off their top 30 visits, it kind of seems like those are the directions they're looking.
Yeah, it seems like they're either trading up or they think one of those wide receivers will be available at 9. I think this is also an interesting spot for Caleb Downs, the safety. I think if you look at cornerback position, I should have mentioned this with the Saints, but Mansour Delane, I said that correct?
Sure, hope so.
Out of LSU. Local guy out with the Saints. He's interesting. The Chiefs just traded away Trent McDuffie, another spot where they could address that at cornerback. Delane is minus 360 to be in the top 10. And if you want to look at him in the first cornerback market, that's long gone. That's something that we've also looked at in the past. I've been looking at just who goes in the top 10 because the Bengals are the last team here. They've been Caleb Downs over and over and over again. And I feel kind of shaky about where Downs could go. He could go even higher, as people say, like, this is one of the best players in the draft. Because on big boards, he's like a top 5, top 6 guy for a lot of people. And then for the actual draft, we know that safeties are not valued as much. He's minus 225 to be drafted in the top 10. You and I were also looking at a couple of markets for his over-under. You want to address Caleb Downs right now because we love him as a player. He's a Georgia boy. It's where he's from, Josh Downs' little brother.
Well, if he's a Georgia boy, then he's definitely going in the top 10.
Mill Creek High School.
Who could forget? The tricky thing is, like you said, in the NFL draft, historically, even the best safeties, these hybrid guys that are kind of like, you can play them at safety, you can play them at nickel. In theory, like the NFL will figure it out and you'll just take them high and they'll produce for you. But even like Kyle Hamilton, who largely is viewed around the league as like, this is the best of the best. He's one of the best, if not the. Like he fell into the teens a little bit. And then it's like Brian Branch. Remember the year he came out, the Lions snagged him. There was a lot of like, yeah, he'll go in the 20s. He's a first round guy, no doubt. And he fell into the second round. Then you saw like Nicky Manwari last year. He got a bunch of buzz after the combine because he crushed that he will be a first round pick. And then he fell out of the first round to the Seahawks. So just based off historical data, safeties do fall in the draft. I'm not saying he won't be a first round pick. He absolutely will be. It's just, does he fall outside the top 10? Is he in the top 9? Which is where his over under is. So for me, I kind of like over 9.5. I don't know what the odds are on that currently. But I was just having a tough time placing him because it's like you need the right scheme and the right fit and the right team to invest a top 9 pick in a safety, which just doesn't happen. So maybe I could get stuck chasing historical data there because of the state of this class where it's so weak that he'll go there. But I just think there's enough outs to me that it's like, if we think the edge rushers go and you think at least one wide receiver goes, maybe 2 wide receivers go, it's like you throw Jeremiah Love in there, it's like eventually you run out of spots for these guys. So in general, I lean overs on draft markets where guys fall and people don't think they will. But yeah, for over 9.5, I've been thinking about that as a play. We'll see if I can convince Kyle to make it official or not.
It's at minus 130 on DraftKings Sportsbook right now.
Okay, maybe.
We'll shop around. We'll shop. We'll shop around.
Go shopping.
And the thing is, when we take these, just know, like, Betz and I are not, like, secretly like, oh, let's wait a couple hours. And then we let you guys know when we take it. We get to notify everybody in our Discord. And we try to bide our time and not just take anything that just feels like on a whim. We usually try to find a couple different areas there. So let's go to a couple more teams here before we wrap up. The Dolphins at 11. They also have pick 30. That they got from the Broncos in the Jalen Waddle trade. I was doing a mock earlier, and I thought this is a spot for Jordan Tyson. Any interest there?
Another team that needs everything.
Yeah.
And I mean everything.
My mocks look really good.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, they need a wide receiver. They also need a cornerback desperately. So like Mansour Delane's kind of a guy that often gets mocked here.
They've met with Mekhi Lemon.
They met with Jamal McCoy.
I need to check that out.
Okay, yeah, but like they need corner, they need wide receiver, like they need everything. So I don't have a great read, quite frankly, but I do think they're in play for one of the wide receivers. The thing about Tyson that, like, I think he's a good enough player to maybe go in this range, but the NFL draft community and scouts are saying otherwise, and maybe that's because of the health and durability question marks. There's some NFL evaluators out there questioning his toughness. Like, I don't, what do I know? You know, we're just couple of dads talking about what, 60-year-old men might do on a late April evening, Kyle. What do I know? But I think he's more likely to slide out of this range than go at pick 9, 10, or 11.
The Cowboys at 12 are an interesting spot because if you look at their board and you look at who they've visited with publicly, we know the top 30 visits. It's been Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles. 2 players are like, it's hard for me to see them being there unless they trade up, which you mentioned earlier. And then it's Caleb Downs, it's Mansour Delane. I feel like they have a shot at one of those 2 players in the secondary that could fall to them at 12 if they want to stay put. And then if they do stay put, they also are candidate to even trade down from there if they want to as well. I know they have another pick later on, but like they have the firepower to move up, and they're also at a spot in the draft where I feel like they just kind of take best available player, especially for the secondary. But who knows? Jerry could do a lot of things.
Jerry could get weird and throw us a curveball.
The 13th pick is the Atlanta Falcons. No, not the Falcons. It's the Rams pick.
You had to do that to yourself, didn't you?
Well, when you can throw away 2 first-round draft picks, you can do it. They said it couldn't be done in one trade to throw away 2 first-round picks and get nothing.
But they have 2 first-round quarterbacks on their roster, so they're fine.
Oh, man.
Tua and Penix.
Are you laughing at our team?
I'm just thinking back to the conversation we had last year about the trade, and I obviously this is hindsight bias because of the confirmed legal issues with James Pierce Jr.
Wait, he had character issues?
Well, it's alleged. It's alleged. Okay. No, we don't want to joke about that stuff. It's very serious. But at the time, it was like you kept being like, well, if they hit on that pick, like, what does it matter? And it's like, Kyle, that is not the point. Other NFL GMs were laughing at the trade
I agree.
made on draft night because of how egregious it was. And now in hindsight, it's like, oh my goodness, man, we just set ourselves back a year because we don't have a quarterback and, we don't really have our first round pick from last year. It's like, the hits just keep coming. I love the Falcons. It's good for this show that the Falcons are happening.
Yes. Well, I don't know if you know this. They've been good for the show the entire existence of this show. They've been.
When's the last time they were in the playoffs?
They haven't had a winning season since 2017.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah. They were just, who could forget 2016? Yeah, the Rams here, I feel like I've been seeing so many different Mekhi Lemon, Jordan Tyson, Kenyon Sadiq, offensive skill position players. And with the Rams, I feel like they don't play the way that everybody else plays when it comes to NFL draft.
They don't. They certainly don't. The one thing I have on the Rams, and I don't know that it's not relevant at this pick for sure, but in the team to draft, I'm trying to pull it up while we're talking here. In the team to draft Ty Simpson market, which is available in a couple of books, right now the Cardinals are the favorite, then it's the Jets, then it's the Rams as the third most likely team. I do not buy that for one single second. Yes, in theory, you want to plan for life after Matthew Stafford.
McVay don't give 2 farts about that.
They could not care about anything else except for winning a Super Bowl this specific season. They know that the clock is ticking. They know that this is happening with Stafford and it's not going to last forever. So in theory, normal teams might say, yeah, let's build for the future. The Rams are not doing that, in my opinion. They're going to just select players that are going to help them win this year. So I am not buying that at all. I think that is a wild misprice in the market.
We will talk more about the rest of the teams. Baltimore's at 14, Tampa Bay's at 15. I would just encourage you, if you're still getting used to the markets and stuff like that, go to NFL Mock Draft Database. You can kind of see some of the trends. You can even go by consensus mock boards, big boards. And next week, Betz and I will go through as many teams as we can. We will unveil our mock drafts, and we don't tell each other beforehand. We kind of go just by a betting perspective, and then we will give you some on the show that we will bet. We will give you some in the coming weeks. Any last thoughts about the draft here?
We have a lot more to learn. Hopefully we get that information over the next couple of weeks. But if you are interested in getting some more of those bets, which hopefully we'll roll out a few more here over the next 2 or 3 weeks, make sure you're in Discord. I know Papa Josh. Shout out to Papa Josh. The guy, nobody on staff works as hard as Papa Josh. Let me tell you what. Put a notification in Discord saying if you are new to the DFS Pass this year or if you haven't re-upped yet or whatever, you have to reconnect your Discord. Access to the props and betting channel if you are a new UDK Plus member. So just make sure your Discord is set up correctly, and that's where we notify everybody about our bets.
Yeah. So like the Mekhi Lemon to go top 10. We gave it out at plus 500. I see on DK right now it's like plus 210.
Is it really?
Yeah. Now that wasn't what it was originally on DK. I think it was plus 300 on DK. But we found the best place. I mean,
printing fake closing line value on NFL Draft. Nothing better, because it doesn't mean anything.
Well, I'm trying to give people that are coming back to the podcast, they haven't got it yet. If it was at plus 400 out there, let's say you bet MGM or somewhere else, and you see Mekhi Lemon.
We took plus 500.
I know, I'm saying, would you tell somebody in your good conscience, like giving obviously good, sound financial advice here, If it was plus 400, would you still say get in on it?
Why not? Why not? Just for the vibes, Kyle.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that somebody got to play
But not at plus 200. I would not.
Yo, no. Oh, God, no. Don't even think about it.
Wouldn't be caught dead.
All right. Well, Betz, do the thing where you sign us off.
Oh, man, it feels so good to be back, Kyle. 2026 is here. I'm putting this out there right now. It's to start the year right. 2026 NFL season will be the best year of this show. So glad you guys are with us. Can't wait to ride all season long together with you guys, talking best ball, NFL draft, DFS, everything. We'll catch you next week. See ya.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at thefantasyfootballers.com.
Why have we asked our contractor we found on Angie.com to be our kids' legal guardian? Because he took such good care when redoing our basement that we knew we could trust him to care for our kids, all 8 of them, should something happen to us.
Are you my dad now?
No, sorry, I do basements.
Connecting homeowners with skilled pros for over 30 years. Angie, the one you trust to find the ones you trust. Find pros for all your home projects at Angie.com.
Breathe in. Feel the sense of calm that comes from having up to $300 in overdraft protection with GoToBank. Now...
Did you say $300?
Yes. Now, back to our breathing.
So if I overspend my balance, GoToBank has my back up to $300?
Yes. Can we breathe out now? Less worries, more zen, with over $300 in overdraft protection. Tap to open an account today. Eligible direct deposits and opt-in required for overdraft protection. Fees, terms, and conditions apply.